Perfect. So we will get started with this fourth and final installment of the Way of Integrity book club by Martha Beck. This fourth section is called Paradise, and this is where you end up when you follow the way of integrity. And as she describes it in the book, paradise is kind of another way of talking about the process of awakening or becoming enlightened, having more light inside your life that slowly over time overtakes darkness. She does talk about some people who have had like spontaneous awakenings or enlightenment where they move from severe darkness to severe light, like all in one jump. But the way she talks about it, it's like it takes years to then process that big jump, as opposed to most people have smaller jumps of enlightenment, like little steps forward on the path. And there's really no right or wrong way. Again, it's like, what are you here for? What do you need? So I love just this way of thinking about enlightenment as far as how do you get there. You go through the gate to hell. That's how you get to enlightenment, is you got to walk through the gate to hell. You got to come face to face with your demons. You got to doubt your demons until you can see the real truth. And this, like, let me jump to, actually, I'm going to jump to an exercise that she has like in the very beginning of part 4, and I'm going to walk us through this exercise because I had even heard her do this before, and still when I re-listened to it this morning, it got me all over again. Like it's called dropping into enlightenment. So close your eyes if you want, if you can, and try to center yourself, and we'll have a deep breath to kind of land in this space. And we're doing this exercise both in the physical and in our mind's eye. So she comes off of talking about like kind of the neurology of awakening. And I'm not going to get into all of that, but long story short, the exercise starts with us raising our hands. So put your hands up in front of you, palms up, like you're holding a tray in front of you. There you go. Yes. And then in your mind's eye, we're sitting here with our palms up, and in our mind's eye, we look over at our left palm, and on our left palm, we see a 2 or 3 inch tall animal, a little miniature animal. It's alive. It can take whatever form you like, and it's wild. It's possibly tired or ravenous. It has wild eyes. You can tell it's a wild animal. And then in our mind's eye, we'll look over at the right palm. And on this palm, we see a 3-inch version of your most appropriate self, your most culturally acceptable self. And so in the palm on the left, the animal, we'll call that the creature. And in the palm on the right, we'll call them the controller. And the creature is seeking truth. The creature is seeking freedom to simply be as it is. And the controller is ultimately seeking to be socially acceptable. The controller wants to live up to cultural expectations. So the controller's effort is spent to suppress the creature, and the creature's energy is spent to rebel against the controller. And the thing to understand about both of these is that the creature is good and the controller is good. And even so, they're both somewhat exhausted. The creature is tired of being controlled. The controller is tired of controlling. And so bring each of them, this wild part of you and this part of you that seeks to control and conform and be a certain thing that you think you need to be, cover them both with well wishes. I wish for you to be happy. I wish for you to be healthy. I wish for you to feel free. Bring them both this loving compassion and wrap the creature in compassion and wrap the controller in compassion. And at this moment, as you're holding your creature and your controller in the palms of your hands, wrapping them in your simple compassion, we ask ourselves the question, in this moment, what are you? You're not the creature, and you're not the controller. You are the compassionate witness. And this is the space of realizing that you are not the creature, you are not your wild, uncontrollable urges that you judge yourself for. And you're also not the controller. You're not the uptight one who has all the rules and is trying to enforce them. You're not that one either. You're something much larger. You're the compassionate witness to all sides of yourself. And this is the space within us that calms inner conflict and emanates peace. And in the Way of Integrity, in part 4, Paradise, this is what she says enlightenment is being able to be at peace. And at any moment, we can remove ourselves from the identity of creature or the identity of controller, and we can reemerge as the compassionate witness who has nothing but love for the part of us that's rebelling, the part of us that's controlling. They're both doing the best they can. They're both good. And that concludes the exercise. And I want to share for fun my thing. I forgot a piece of the exercise that she does in the book. I highly recommend her version. She's obviously the professional. But the very first thing she says is, think in your mind about something you do on a regular basis, even though you know you shouldn't. And the first thing that came to my mind is, I doubt myself. I second guess myself after the fact almost every time I do anything. And so that's my thing, is I doubt myself. And so then she has you go into this exercise with the creature and the controller. And so the creature is the one doing it. The creature is the one doubting itself, because that's just what comes naturally. The creature is doubting that it did a good job in my example. And then the controller is the one that says, doubting yourself is bad. I make myself bad for doubting myself. The creature's just doing its best. And then the controller comes along and says, that's not good enough. And then let me tell you what happens is I beat up on myself for beating up on myself. So now there's like a secondary controller who's telling the controller, you shouldn't tell the creature what to do. And I'm still trying to control the controller. Classic. So the controller may have layers that you got to like realize that until you're letting it all just be, you're not the compassionate witness, right? Like if the behavior is wrong, then you're still inside the controller. If you're feeling controlled in an uncomfortable way, you're inside the creature. And at that point, you're not in your expanded self. So I really thought that was fun. And I would love to hear, that's like my favorite part. I have several other things that I wanted to bring up, but I think we got plenty of time to get into all of that. So I would love to hear from you guys, like what stood out from this 4th section? How was the journey like getting here and then landing in the paradise part? The exercises, quotes, takeaways, reflections, whatever you got. Let's hear it. So excited.
I was wishing I had the actual book so I could highlight, put little post-its and stuff, because it was chock full of things I wanted to remember. But Uda, please jump in. Do you have anything? right off?
Not a whole lot, because for me, I borrowed the book from the library, and that was quite a while back now, because I got it before the first class, and I don't retain things as well as I would. But this exercise here was interesting. The critter that came to me was a squirrel, and I think that was because I was looking for something that could sort of fit in my palm of my hand at the moment. But it's also an interesting choice,
Perfect.
and then my controller turned out to be more of a rag doll, like the kind with the yellow wool hair and very bright colored outfit and stuff. So that was an interesting take on that too.
Yeah. Myra, what was your animal?
Oh, it was a miniature Black Panther.
That's intense.
That's what.
Yeah.
It was super cute though, because it was small. Otherwise,
Sure.
might be scared. But and then it was me and my other but I was mostly, my little creature just wanted to play and be creative and kind of goof off. Whereas I was, no, there's stuff to do, stick to the program, what's going on, that kind of thing. I had that kind of interplay, but
Yeah.
Little Panther was kind of rolling around. Yeah. So
My animal, when it showed up, I was very surprised because I don't have a thing for giraffes normally, but it was a giraffe.
oh,
And it was like literally on the palm of my hand. It was just this tall and it had its long neck still and its like awkward legs. And it was like running like it was almost drunk around my hand. But I had taken in the piece of like the worst thing ever is self-doubt. And this giraffe of like, I don't know, the symbolism I took from it was the animal doesn't really look like very many other animals on this planet. It's pretty unique in the way its body is configured. And then it was running around like it just didn't know what to do. It's like over here and it's over here and it's over here. There's like no logic, there's no order. And my controller is like, would you just sit still? Would you just like lay down and like be quiet? And yeah, my controller was also me in like this outfit that I wore for this award ceremony. And I remember like how hard I tried to like wear the right thing and like be appropriate with the audience and the space I was in. And that was the me that showed up like on this hand. And I was like, oh yeah, there you are. That's definitely the controller. She thinks she's in charge of everything. But yeah, the giraffe. I was like, whoa, where'd you come from?
yeah.
It was fun.
I love that choice.
Yeah, it was interesting. It's fun to see what our imagination pops in to stuff like that. Yeah. And then to like Google, do you guys ever Google like the spiritual meaning of that animal and like get a message on what it is? I didn't Google my giraffe one, but that would be fun.
Yeah, we could do it right now,
Well,
Carmen.
that's kind of, I'm like, can I Google? Is that a thing? I think so.
Abs-
Why not?
There's rules
Why the
here.
hell not? Giraffe spiritual meaning. Show me what it is. Oh my gosh, what a synchronicity. Whoa. Just as the giraffe is a symbol of aspiration, they are also symbols of opportunity. You may feel that opportunities and lucky breaks don't come your way. The giraffe reminds you that you have to reach for them. There's a great big world out there, and fortune favors the bold. And just yesterday, I was talking about the new Gene Keys program, and I used my vocation as an example, which I had not planned. And that led me down talking about the shadow of my vocation is greed and the gift is aspiration. So I like talked about aspiration on that live stream yesterday, like multiple times mentioned that. And then bam, there's a giraffe. And then bam, here's the idea to like, this is just like the story she told at the end of the chapter, where it's like, here's the magical ways paradise can show itself to you that like you're in alignment with your truth. That's really cool. Shall we Google yours? The squirrel and the Black Panther? Why not?
Yeah, do it.
Squirrel. Ooh, here we go. In Native American cultures, the squirrel is a symbol of preparation and resourcefulness. The animal is popular for its ability to store food and create a cozy nest, representing ability to weather any storm. Some Native American tribes also believe that the squirrel is a trickster spirit. What do you think about that, Uta?
Yeah, I think that's pretty good inclination. And it's the war between the squirrel and my north nodes in Scorpio, which tells me to release everything. So am I being tricked hanging on to things?
Oh, that's a really good connection between like that resourcefulness and the cozy nest and like stockpiling resources, like with your Taurus South node. That definitely rings a bell. Yeah, that's a really good one. Mm, yeah. Well, and like these animals, like, are meant to represent the wild part of ourselves, like the totally free. If you weren't worried about any inhibitions whatsoever, like who would you be? And yeah, that's where that might be a fun string to pull even a little bit further after this. And the Panther. Because Panther has lunar ties, they hold the power of mysticism and the safety of darkness. Her wisdom and knowledge are as deep as the night itself. She is sensitive to vibrations that others cannot process and very in touch with her sensual sexual self. I don't mean to laugh, but I'm like a 12-year-old child on the inside. So yeah, there we go. There's that one, Myra.
That's intense.
That is intense. A little bit. What do you think?
I had no idea. I think I'm more squirrely.
You think? I don't know. Your imagination popped in a black freaking panther. Like, that's intense.
But it was a real small one.
Sure. Maybe you're a real small panther on the inside. Like a panther. Which is also a synchronicity for me, oddly enough, because I'm rewatching True Blood right now for like the 17th time.
Oh yeah.
I like vampire things. And I just got to the season where the were-panthers are. And so there's like were-panther shit like going on all over the place in this season. And so I've been like really looking at panthers lately. So for you to even channel that is a synchronicity on my side. So thank you. I love it.
Oh, that's fun.
It is fun. Let me see like some of the other pieces that I wrote down on. Ooh, like she talked about don't know mind, like as far as not knowing, and like is it our mind's job to get to the bottom of what we believe, or is it our mind's job to release beliefs altogether and kind of get out of the way? And a quote that went along with that, and I didn't jot down who said this, but in the beginner's mind there are many possibilities, in the experts there are few. I really loved that. We started the group coaching program 6 months ago with talking about like beginner mindset and the growth mindset, and then like seeing it show up again here. As far as like wisdom of not knowing, like loosening our grip on what we think we know. And that's where she went through a lot. Again, Byron Katie's work, where you ask yourself, is that true? Are you sure? Are you absolutely sure? And she even gave an example of like, it's raining outside. Are you sure? And you know for certain that that's true? No, because you could be dreaming this. You could be dreaming this whole day. You could be dreaming this conversation. And in that moment, I had like a out of body experience where I was like, am I dreaming right now? Maybe, maybe. What would I do next if this was a dream and I wasn't inhibited at all? Like just kind of playing with the boundaries of like what even is real, what's true. And then kind of how she ties all that together is like basically if something makes you suffer when you think about it, question it, and don't betray yourself by being willing to believe your thoughts if they make you suffer. Was some like the piece that really stuck out to me, as far as like we think we know, or we're willing to suffer over things that we're not even sure are true. and releasing ourselves from that, allowing ourselves to be in the not know mind, the not knowing mind, and to come back to that place of compassionate witness where it's all good. It all gets wrapped in love and compassion. And most of it's an illusion anyway. A good big chunk of it's an illusion anyway. And so before we're willing to suffer, before we're willing to put our precious self through any kind of suffering, be damn sure that what you're suffering over is at least real. And basically her conclusion is nothing is real. Like it's none of it's worth suffering over. Like suffering is a choice of like opted in or opted out. What do you guys think about that as far as kind of all of that, anything that stands out?
I did a post-it.
Oh, what's on your post-it?
She said, she must have said it and I wrote it down. Clearly my thoughts, let's see, clearly my thoughts, something I can't understand what I wrote, suffering. So I didn't obey them. I watched and questioned them. Just what you said. So that hit me kind of hard. Well, they caused suffering. My thoughts caused suffering.
So yeah.
Why do we do that to ourselves?
I don't believe them. Clearly they're not real. They're making me suffer. I know, like, oh.
Why do we do it?
Imagination is our real life.
What's that?
She said imagination is our real life. The way we see determines what we see. I liked that too.
Yeah. I feel like that is so simple, and yet you could spend a lifetime contemplating that one. That's millions of miles deep. Uta, what were you going to say?
Well, in this moment, I'm going to say about the imagination, it's like the conditioning comes in on our imagination and makes us question and doubt ourselves because others don't necessarily like us seeing the world in an open way. So we tend to get outside influences that pull us from ourselves and put us in the conditioning and off path to begin with. And that happens, I mean, both within families and schools and whatnot. But there's also the larger overlay of the culture and how it's been used to serve certain people. So being willing to be uncertain and go into the unknown, I think, is really an important aspect of freeing ourselves from what those conditionings have provided for us on the planet. And so, yeah, I really, really echo the need to be more comfortable with uncertainty and not see the uncertain as threatening, but rather as opportunity and to just bring peace to ourselves in any way that we can. So those are, I mean, she has great tools for doing that, and I'm a big fan of the material world is not the real world. It's created through our imagination and our minds, and that's where we're going to shift it, is through consciousness and awareness and bringing that to the table. So yeah, it's important stuff.
Yeah. Oh,
well said.
Very. That's very good. Okay, so this piece, the function of freedom is to help free others. The function of freedom is to help free others. Like when you get free, that's only the beginning of what you're even here to do. Freeing yourself is just the prerequisite of like when you live in paradise, like basically her definition of paradise is when your paradise unfolds around you. And she gives lots of cool stories about like how different people's paradises looked different, but they all had a very common thread that sounded a lot like what we were talking about in the Aquarius New Moon live stream yesterday, of like making a contribution that served the bigger picture, humanity or animals or a particular country or like some kind of gap or need or something in the world. People's paradise was them contributing something that was like helping somebody else, animals or other people.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the function of freedom is to help free others. And when I heard that, like the very first time I was listening to it, this was back before the book club ever started, that was where I decided that we needed to have this book club, because like the function of freedom is to help free others. And I'm like, if I can bring this book to even like one other person who's able to get even like 1% more free out of like listening to this book and then having these conversations, that's paradise. That's paradise. Like those ripple effects of like the aha moments in other people, because I show up and say, hey, this book was really cool. And, yeah, only you two are here right now, but on the channel, like these book clubs have gotten like 60 or 70 views a time, like each individual episode. So I know there's other people too, like reading along and watching these recordings. And to think that like, this is my paradise. Like I'm in it right here, right now. This is it. Of like, I feel good, and how can I ripple this out into the world? Like, what does that look like? And I love the stories that she told, because you could literally take it in any direction that you want. Like your version of paradise is going to be as unique as you are. And I wonder, like, do you guys have any like thoughts on well, what do I want to ask here? Like that paying it forward type aspect of like kind of what it's all for, like everything that you went through, and like all the time in the dark wood of air and all the fire of the inferno and like the hell that you had to walk through, like it was to get to paradise so you could go back. Like, does that land? Does that track for you guys? I was like, no. No, definitely not.
I'm still trying to get to paradise. Real familiar with going back. I'm just recalling the stories that she shared. I think Toni Morrison was the person that said the to free others.
Oh yeah, okay.
In case that's just a book. She's an author, so file that away if you ever want to check into books. She was a Nobel laureate. And then the fractals, when you were speaking, I was thinking about that going forward, all the and then when she said to imagine the earth, and then what do you think is the most important thing? What are you really passionate about? And is it the tragedies in the world, or pollution, and all of that? And then imagine your body there, and how you treat your body, and how to respect that. So there's just, this section was just so chock full of stuff. I have to go back and listen to it again. And I'm right now lost in I already forgot the question that you asked.
No, that was awesome.
Okay. So,
Uta, what do you have to add to that?
I think one of the things, the good news is that just by freeing ourselves, we are already generating into the world an energy that is changed and shifted, and shifts it for everyone. I mean, we're in the physical, and it's great to play it forward and do those things, but it's not totally a requirement, because just the shift within. Eckert told me there's been he's doing a new program or something, I think, coming up. So I've caught his ads a couple of times for people to just come into that place of awareness, and just how powerful that is, just by bringing your own awareness. It really is the key. The doing sometimes almost negates some of what we've done, because we're so busy trying to fix things, and then now if you're trying to fix something, you're bringing the opposite energy. It's kind of like picking up the wrong end of the stick, because it's all okay already, even though it appears to be otherwise. I don't know if that makes sense for you, but it's kind of,
well, it reminds me of what she was talking about, like at the end of Paradise, where she said like there's a big difference. When you're in paradise, you're not driven by fear, you're driven by love. And so it's like an insatiable desire. When you say it's not a requirement, I think I disagree for me personally, because like what I felt when I was sitting there listening to Paradise, and like I was so full of love and light that like I can't keep all of this. Like I have to give some of it away. It's too much for me. Like you need some and you need some and that 70 other people watching this, they need some. Like it's too much for one person. And if like it overflows, it like is like a waterfall of you're not fixing anything. You have too much love, and why would you not give some of that to the next guy? Why? Like,
Yeah, no, I don't think we're not meant to share it in whatever way feels right for us. But it's not the, like, there's a lot of people trying to fix problems from a place of seeing it as broken, not as overflowing
right.
wholeness.
Which I think would be better put in like the dark wood of error. Like those are misguided
Yeah.
intentions of thinking that it's broken and then it's your job to fix it. And like that goes back to what we talked about in that very first part of the dark wood of error, and like climbing Mount Delectable and like doing the things in the physical that you think are going to make you worthy or whatever, like trying to measure up and or trying to make the world measure up. Like I do hear what you're saying. There are people doing that, but they're not in paradise. They're not coming from paradise. Like
No.
when you get to paradise, the paying it forward part, like I don't think it's optional. When you unlock that level of love inside of yourself, like if you don't share it, I don't even know. Like I couldn't imagine not. I don't know.
I guess, have you had feelings of being in paradise? Have you had moments? Have you had I'd like to think that I have, but they would definitely just be moments, just fleeting. But she did talk about she had that weird time in the woods when she was living in California, and how she dreamt about this home, and she could see it, and she would open her eyes and wonder why she wasn't there. And then she went and started looking, found it, went there, meditated, all these wonderful things happened. And her description of that is, I'm all in. I want to go do that. I was excited. I wanted to start looking for real estate.
To live in that place.
Yes.
But isn't that okay? So that's what she says is like everything you want, everything that you've ever wanted. And I think this is just another way of talking about the vortex, like what Abraham Hicks talks about. But everything that you want is always given to you, but it's delivered to your permanent address, and your permanent address is peace.
Yes.
And if you're not at peace, then you're not getting what you want. And we take ourselves to that place. That place is inside of us. So I think like, you know, how that works as far as her seeing these visions of this house, this property or whatever, like that's already where she lived inside of herself. She already lived at her permanent address of peace. She got there just by tuning in. And then, like, that inner world can't help but be reflected in our outer world. And she uproots her family out of Arizona and moves them over to California, like, because that's where she needs to be. And that was like the sole reason of like why she went there. So, yeah, our permanent address is peace.
Yes.
Being in paradise is peace.
Can you let Janine in, or is it too late?
Yeah, we're off and going, so we'll just keep going. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I was answering the text because she
Gotcha.
texted me to see
Yeah,
if she could
I let
get
her
it.
know that we're gonna wait 10 minutes and she needs to be here, but
Oh, okay.
yes. So let's see. Oh, yeah, how she describes paradise another way is that we spend the rest of our time Virgiling people out of the dark wood of air. I love how she turns Virgil into a verb. That's like a a poet. It was a dead poet, like that came to him as his spirit guide when he was very first like waking up in the dark wood of error. And so basically, like what she's saying is that when you get to paradise, like you become your own Virgil for lighting up whatever's part of the world you're drawn to, like that really sets your inner world on fire. But yeah, I thought that was funny. Virgiling others out of the dark wood of air made me chuckle. Yeah.
I wrote down everyone is everywhere.
All at once. That's like a movie that just came out too, which I thought was an awesome synchronicity for listening to the book. But yeah, what was it about that? Something like when you're moving at the speed of light,
That's right. Then everything
stops.
stops. Yeah.
Yeah.
Time stops. So it's always now. And everything is, yeah.
Yes.
I love that.
I was driving over here. I was driving up my brother's driveway as she was talking about that, how like the current moment is always like slipping into the past. Like the world is always being lost to the past. And like the now is like ever present. And she's like, the you of like just a minute ago or even a second ago will never exist again. Like it's completely gone. And she's like, nothing real would ever disappear so completely. And I think her whole point of that was like time is not real. Like the way we exist inside the present moment, the way we experience linear time, like it's an illusion to help us ground and be here and get what we need or whatever. But like to just kind of let that be a reminder that like the you of the past like doesn't exist anymore. And her point was, another way she explained it was like she was sitting there, I think, in that forest meditating, and she had the realization, like, this body has had 3 kids. Like, how weird. And then she was like, is that true? No, no, it's not. And she came up with like this reasoning of like, our cells regenerate inside of our body every 7 years. So at that point where she was in time, not a single cell in her body had been present at the time when she had any of her 3 kids. And so even our body is a fluid, always evolving, always moving, regenerating around a wisp of consciousness. Is how she said that. And I was like, whoa, that she's a very good writer. I love her words. She does good words. She gives good words.
Good words. I love this whole conversation. I love thinking about just it's such a good reminder, especially after the week I've had and making choices and feeling, getting so caught up in this. And then I'm refreshing. I was listening to it this morning and it's like, oh yes,
right?
That's right. How do I need to keep reminding myself of this?
What is the piece that you're wanting to like ground even more going forward?
I don't need to struggle as much as I'm struggling and attaching so much to it, because if I let it go, I have more of an opportunity to experience more probably what I'm meant to be doing. It's like I'm holding that hostage somehow because I have to fix all this other stuff, and I can't predict I can't control that much. I can't control what's other people or what's going to happen, or I just have to be here right now. And I don't want to waste now worrying about things I can't control. I don't know if that makes sense, but I know what I'm trying to say. And it's just let this go, let it go. And it's so much more fun to think about all the wonderful synchronicities, like we're seeing the javelinas and I don't know if they were antelope, and she was talking about other people's synchronicities, and that's an adventure I want to be on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, she did talk about like, let me find that part. Oh, there it is stuff. So when you she did start by talking about psilocybin mushrooms and how when you do take that or some other substances, the effect that it has on our brain is that it quiets the part that believes ourselves to be separate, and it quiets the part that attempts to control. So when you take mushrooms, even just one time,
Just
the
one.
brain being quieted in those areas will have a permanent shift on how you see the world around you. And she also goes on to say that you don't need a substance, like you don't have to do mushrooms to have this experience, that essentially meditation is the same thing. It's the act of practicing quieting our mind on purpose. And that sends me back, something that you said added to it, like to when we are inside a moment of like you said, like I need to fix this, or I need to get it right, or I need to, like, you're in that kind of control mode. Like, I think she introduced this in the very first part, where like first start by telling yourself, I am meant to fix this thing. And how does that feel? I am meant to fix the thing. I'm going to guess, I'm not inside your body, but I'm going to guess it doesn't feel good because you haven't fixed the thing yet. And you should have fixed it. So it sucks. It doesn't really feel great. As opposed to, I am meant to feel at peace.
Peace, she said.
I
Yeah.
am meant to feel at peace. And in that moment, that's how she teaches you to find your inner teacher, is like the way that relaxes your body when you remind yourself, I am meant to be at peace. It like almost instantly transports you to that place of the compassionate witness where you can see more clearly, oh, the controller, she's in a spin.
Yes.
Bless her. She's doing her best. She's acting out what she thinks she needs to be acting out, and she's not wrong. She's good. But I don't have to allow my whole self to be like whipped around in the frenzy of her energy. I can just observe that that's where she is. And she's trying to come over here and control my playful critter who just wants to take a nap and just wants to watch some Netflix, like just wants to hang out and be. And I can see this going on, and instantly in that moment, you've released suffering. You're no longer suffering over the actions of the controller or the actions of the rebel, the creature, because you're at peace. You're floating in that space where there is no inner conflict. And that's what she talks about, like coming back into harmony with your truth. And the fractals, it's like when you're living from paradise, when you're living from a place of like being aligned with your personal truth, the patterns around you, like you see people in the physical world like being attracted to you, and like your community growing, and like kind of the fractal out of like the light from inside of you gets reflected more and more outside of you. But then also the fractal in, where it like turns it inward, and like every single cell of your body is receiving that peace. And she cites one example in there of like miraculous, basically physical healing that happened after like a spontaneous awakening kind of experience of like letting that peace sink into your body in a meaningful way. And I don't know who you were asking earlier when like you asked like have we experienced paradise or like being there or whatever. And in my experience, paradise is peace. So like I practice peace mostly when I'm like walking, like when I'm moving my body is the easiest time for me. And so like every time I get up to go make another cup of coffee, or carry the coffee back to my desk, or like get up and go to the bathroom, or get up and walk to my car, I intentionally walk really slowly so I can feel how good it feels for my hips to be like moving my legs, and how good it feels that my lungs just breathe themselves and I have plenty of oxygen to like be totally calm inside this moment. Silent meditation has never really been my thing, but having moments where I just slow down my energy and like on purpose bring yourself to that place of peace. And then you don't have to live there full time to go and like, peace is your permanent address. Like go check it like your PO box. Like go see what's in there. Like go put yourself there for 20 minutes and see if anything's there. Maybe there is. Maybe you just get 20 minutes of being at peace. And yeah, we don't have to be there all the time. And that's where I think she talks pretty good throughout the entire book about you walk through the gate to hell, you go down Satan's nasty body and you come out the other side and climb up purgatory, and there you're in paradise. And then there's a different hell gate. And then there's a different hell gate. And now you're back in the dark wood of air. Like getting sucked back into our conditioning, I think, is kind of part of the human condition. So learning to recognize, like, when am I not at peace? When am I suffering? Is really the best way to bring an end to your suffering, is to just be aware of it. Kind of like Uta said, like awareness is really the most important tool that we can bring to ourselves to this journey, is to recognize in real time when you're suffering, and don't let it go on. Nip it in the bud as soon as possible, because you deserve to be at peace. I am meant to be at peace. I'm not meant to fix the thing. I'm not meant to convince so-and-so of whatever. Like, I'm meant to be at peace. I don't have to do anything I don't want to do. We each get everything we want, period. And almost none of us want to suffer. And yet we almost all give that to ourselves really, really regularly. So,
Oh yeah.
dude, yeah, I don't think you like that. So let's pivot. What could we do? How could we be the compassionate witness? And like just witness what it's like to be alive. Like, again, I think when you're in paradise, like even just breathing, even just taking a drink of water and feeling it like slide over your tongue and go down your throat, inhaling through your nose and exhaling through your mouth, like these are truly delicious experiences when you are present, when you're not fighting against the experience of just being. And yeah, paradise is like that, peaceful. Just be. And then every once in a while, something comes through the PO box, like, oh, like it's an eruption and it has to come out. And oh, there's a book club. It's like, let that part happen, like the finding your dream home in California in the woods, like that part happens. But it's because she was visiting peace so often. She had basically already moved to her permanent address of peace. And we can visit that as often as we remember. Remembering is like you said, like, I forget. You got to practice. Oh.
True.
Yeah, indeed. What else? Fractals. Oh yeah. So as you practice this, like quieting, like whether you take a substance or you practice it over a long time, like as you quiet the part of you that knows it to be separate, it like kind of organically morphs into a sense of unity, like that sense of the universe is all one big organism, like the knowing in your bones that we are all in this together. So your suffering is my suffering. I can't let you suffer because I don't let myself suffer. And so the unity of we are all in this together, and control becomes compassion. Instead of trying to control, even like I said, like I would try to control my controller. And then I'm like trying to control the controller of the controller. Like you can get deep into that cycle, or you can kind of like break the chain of control by just bringing compassion to the part of yourself that thinks it needs to control.
Yeah.
Like that depth of, why is it doing that? That's the conditioning that, was really prominent in the dark wood of error. But even when you get to paradise, there are going to be those loops back, those, the spiral around the conditioning that we came to unravel at like deeper and deeper layers. I don't know that we're ever really free of it as humans. That's kind of what we came here for, was the limitation of something to work with, like when we're just unconditional love in the non-physical form. Right. Like, it's not hard. Right. Being love in human form is, now that'll take you a minute to get the hang of it and practice it and make it normal, make it something that you remember. and eventually turn that into your first nature. That, like, again, I think part of living in paradise is being able to recognize suffering like almost instantaneously, and taking like a little cup and like putting it over the flame of the suffering like almost instantly. That, you know, it's not that there isn't suffering, it's that you know how to pivot really, really fast. So again, like the only thing we can really do is practice recognizing it. Practice recognizing it and believing that we don't have to stay there. I'm not meant to fix it. I'm meant to be at peace. Yeah. It's such good stuff. I agree. I'm definitely going to listen to it again. It's like my third time through.
Oh, another thing I wrote down is we're biologically wired to seek enlightenment. She said that. So I had to rewind that and listen to it. So this is,
go ahead.
Oh, so this is kind of in a way what you were saying. Here we are. We're here to work our way through it. We're wired for it.
I want to rephrase what she's saying into, like, I think another way to say the exact same thing is that we are biologically wired to know that we are not meant to suffer. So every time we encounter suffering, we know it's wrong. And every time you encounter suffering, you reach towards enlightenment a little bit more. And like those people who have the spontaneous awakenings, their suffering is so intense that their awakening like snaps out of them like all at once. And with little amounts of suffering, you have little steps forward on the path of enlightenment. But again, I think it's like we're pain averse as creatures, like as human beings. We do not like to be in pain typically. There's some people out there who dig it, and that's, dude, you go, you do you. But yeah, I think we know at our core that we're supposed to feel good. I'm meant to be at peace. The reason that relaxes us is because at a deep level, we know it's true. And that, yeah, seeking that peace is so normal. Uta, what were you going to add?
It's, yeah, I know I turned on my mic, but in the meantime, I kind of lost the thread. But definitely I was wired to keep seeking. That was such a deep thread throughout my life. I mean, I started right from the get-go asking all the questions. So
yeah, I think, well, and I think to a certain extent, the suffering that we feel accelerates our enlightenment journey. It propels us forward on that path. And people who have more comfortable upbringings or less trauma or drama or whatever the case is, they're comfy, cozy, chill, like they're not seeking, they're not asking for more because what they have is great. And so it's like, if you intended to wake up in this lifetime, you signed up for a big, good dose of suffering. You needed that.
I think that's exactly true. It's a gift to ourselves so that we will remember what we came for, word for.
Totally. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it can propel you. I was thinking about immigrants, and I was talking to someone about our ancestors that came here from other countries, and that spirit and that desire, and leaving something that was so difficult to take a risk on. You have nothing to lose. So yeah, that can really propel someone forward. Discomfort and the challenges, just so impressive.
I forget, maybe, gosh dang it, I don't know where I read this, but it was within the last day or two. And it said, I totally just lost that train of thought. Oh, she's gone. Not meant to be. It's really not. Oh, it was good though. No, it's not coming back. Moving on.
Oh, what was that? I forget. Those that know don't speak, and those that speak don't know. So whatever that knowledge is, you can't communicate it. It's
You can't communicate it verbally, but
right.
you can communicate it through your being. I think it's sometimes it's one of the things I mentioned to Janine before she was going to see her daughter is less words, just be present with that energy that you feel, and it helps, because especially when you have really different ways of being and viewing the world, then words just create division. Whereas if you can stay present in your heart no matter what, it can melt those differences. That can just, things happen magically when you don't, because the words always, when we speak, it always automatically, the mind is a part of that, even to construct the words and stuff. So if we're having challenges in a relationship, the less we can be in the words, the more just staying in our hearts, it helps to shift the energy, I find.
Oh, that makes me think art and music can, do so.
Yeah. I think what she said in that too was about, like, you could spend years describing the taste of honey to someone and they'll never get it. They will never get it until they taste a spoonful of it for themselves. They will not know what honey tastes like. And I don't know if, like, even holding a vibration of paradise will let other people know paradise for themselves, as opposed to like keep you there no matter if other people know it or not. Like, me trying to describe what paradise feels a lot like trying to tell you what honey tastes like. Like, until you're living inside of a moment of like, I am so fucking grateful to be alive. I am so excited to wake up this morning and to get to be here again. Really? A whole nother one? Oh my gosh. So much. Thank you so much. I got big energy for this day. Let's see what you so, like, until you've been inside of that level of enthusiasm just to like get to be physical, like, other people, like, they just can't hear. But again, it goes back to like, are you trying to control? Do they need to hear?
Right.
Or are you just witnessing? Are you just like letting it all be what it is and holding yourself in your own vibration, like no matter what anybody else is doing? Because yeah, others, they got to get there for themselves. And that's where we can't, like, catapult them into paradise, but we can be Virgil. We can walk up to the gate of hell with them. We can take their hand and say, you're not alone. I can't skip any of this pain for you, but I can be with you while you go through it. And that's the best we can ever do for another person, is to, like, yeah, give them somebody to share it with as they do it themselves. And hopefully that helps to like push through the process. But yeah, people who aren't ready to merge with truth, like, we can't take them kicking and screaming. They gotta want it for themselves, right? Like the whole, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Like, it's not for us to taste the honey for them. We just can't. But yeah. I do think that our aura does something. Like, I was watching this Matt Kahn video the other day, and he's like, what I do is like put out like a buffet of energy where you can just and like taste it, just like sample. And so, like, out of my aura, you get to taste, or out of like anybody's aura, you get to taste the energy that they have. But that doesn't mean that you have it. You just get to taste it and feel it for yourself. And then if you want your energy to feel more like that on a regular basis, you can take the steps to like mold your energy towards that. And so I do think that our aura is valuable to others, but only in the sense that they get to feel something different than what they've been feeling. Doing the work and them actually moving into their own alignment is still for them. Like I personally, I'm not saying this is how it works, but I personally don't think that like we can move somebody else's vibration in a permanent way. Like I think we can kind of give them a preview, maybe give them like a sample taste, and then they got to buy the whole enchilada for themselves. Like go inside and walk through the gate to hell.
Here's a
Get
little
your
thing.
demon.
Yeah.
What's that?
I was just thinking of if I've being in the presence of someone that's really has it together. Like if I've been around someone where I've sampled some of that, you know, I want to sit next to this person, just witnessing someone that is so together. Hasn't happened a whole lot. I hope it happens more. But maybe that's because I need to be more.
It's kind of like the fractals concept of like what's around you is only what's inside of you.
Yeah.
You are the world. So like everything you see in the world, that's what's inside of you.
Great.
And so like, great. So yeah, it's like when you go and spend more time at your permanent address of peace, I would imagine more people sitting next to you are gonna be that. But
Yeah,
again, they can't give it to us,
nope.
you know? But I will say, like, as you were talking, I have used different people's energy to kind of almost like, did you ever play with those paper dolls where you could like put on different paper outfits on the doll? Okay. And it's like building your energy piece by piece by piece. It's like I have this one person who comes to mind who is like one of the calmest people I've ever met. And every time I spend time in their aura, I'm like trying my best to like absorb like the muscle memory of what does this level of calm feel like. And then there's a whole different person whose assertiveness blows my freaking mind. I'm like, how do you do that? How do you just say what needs said and like don't even bat an eye? And it's so full of love, but yet at the same time, it's like rock solid firm. Like, how do you do that? And so I'm like trying to like soak up this piece from this person and this piece from this person and like really sink into what are those pieces? Like, what are the pieces that you even want on your paper doll? Like, what outfit is she wearing? You know, what color skirt? What color boots? Like, I only did this for a small time, but still, it kind of fits. Like, you can change out the different pieces of, yeah, like if you're a little bit more anxious and you'd rather be more calm, then find yourself like a calm role model and spend time in their energy. Like that Aquarius new moon invitation of like, we become like the 5 people we spend the most time around. So do you like their energy? Because you're becoming more and more like it every single moment that you're with them. So if you do and you like their energy, then keep leaning into spending time with them. And if you don't like their energy, then lean back out and find yourself somebody else to lean into where you do want to move in that direction. And so, yeah, like maybe like 5 pieces that you wish were stronger and like 5 people that even just one piece, one person. But yeah, and like intentionally spend time listening and soaking up their energy, not because it's going to change yours, but because you can, like, yeah, the muscle memory of you can remember more vividly what it's like to spend time in that space the more time you spend in that space. Like the more often you visit peace, the easier it's to get there, the longer you stay. And then it's just natural and you kind of live there all the time. And then you have visions of your house in California and you go move there. Like, I think that's how it works anyway. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and this time of year, it's like maybe you don't want to go to your family's house for Thanksgiving because as soon as you walk in that door, you've become what they think you are. It's like no matter how old you get, you're fall back into that childhood thing. So
Yeah.
wow, Myra, way to bring a room down.
No, no, that's such a good point. I mean, that's one of the reasons I skipped Christmas this year. I mean, the noise was the main one. But yeah, I mean, expectations of other people. I tend to spend time around people who don't have very many expectations for me, like because I myself am a recovering expectation haver, like need to control and like make it my way. And so when I'm around people that treat me like that, it riles up all my own stuff. And I'm like, okay, I need to get away from you. I need to hang out with people who are like, go with the flow, totally chill. That's not necessarily who I am, but it's who I want to lean into becoming. So I try to surround myself with people who are calmer and like more go with the flow than I am, because that's the direction I'm trying to lean.
Nice balance.
Yeah, we can mirror them and mirror their energy and like hold it inside of our body while they're around. And when they're not around, we at least have the memory of holding that energy, and we can maybe get back there on our own. But yeah, when we bump into people whose energy we don't like, I think the dark wood of error response is to get them to be different. And the paradise response is to be the compassionate witness. They're good just how they are. They don't need to be different. It's the controller in the right palm who wants them to be different in the first place. But yeah, I do love, kind of like as an ending note, how she ends, I think the second part of Paradise is with that exercise of you are the world, of like looking at what is like the worst problem in the world and what needs to be done to fix it, and then take the image of the world and put yourself there instead. And how can you make these changes inside of your own physical self? She quotes Gandhi to top it all off: be the change you want to see in the world. Don't wait for other people to make the change, you be the change. And one example she gave that like really set it into crystal clear context is like when somebody's upset about pollution or like throwing garbage in the ocean or like something like that to do with the planet, but meanwhile is still eating lots of processed foods and drinking alcohol and smoking cigarettes and like putting other toxins into their body. They want people to treat the world nicer, but they're not treating themselves nicer. And so kind of make your inside world just like you want the outside world to be. And that definitely pretty much echoes like all other spiritual teachings that have ever sounded true to me. Is like, we don't make our changes out in the world, we make them inside of ourselves. And then the fractals change around us because the inside is different. But
Yep.
I don't pretend that's the only way. I'm sure everybody has their own understanding, but that's what helps me feel nice inside myself. Anything to add before we wrap this sucker up?
Well, it was great. This whole, all 4 stages of this, I learned so much. So thanks for a wonderful idea. And I'm going to read it again or listen to it again.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, me too. It's an oldie but a goodie. Those exercises, they get me every time. They're very, very good. Like it's such a practical book. Very applicable. What about you, Uta? Anything to add?
I mean, I think it's a great book, but I love her other one even better. I think I mentioned it at the first meeting. How to Live in a Wild World, or can I go grab it quick?
Sure. Yeah, she has several books. I know, Martha Beck. This is the only one of hers I've ever read. And I actually found it because I was like obsessed. This is another, like magical unfolding of the universe. Like, how did this book even come to me? I was obsessed with Elizabeth Gilbert at the time. For like a short little period, I was watching like every single interview I could find with Elizabeth Gilbert. And eventually I had watched almost all of them. And I watched this one where it was Liz interviewing Martha about, we'll come back to that here in just a second. She was interviewing Martha about the way of integrity. So I'll link that in the description and I put it in some of the other recordings on these as well. Is their conversation about the book, like even if you don't read the book, that conversation like kind of sums up the highlights, the high points. And Martha's personality is again, like a pure demonstration of paradise. Like she's so playful, she's so funny, she laughs all the time, she's so sarcastic, and just like generally a joyful person. And obviously we don't know what she's like 24/7, but it seems really genuine and pure to me. It definitely resonates as far as like, again, wanting to lean more into that energy for myself. Uta, show us that other book of hers real quick.
Yeah, I love that interview that you're referring to. That was
one.
really special to let's see if I can
Finding your way in a wild new world.
reclaim your true nature to create the life you want.
So much about true nature and our inner truth, and nature versus culture is kind of where the way of integrity starts. Is her background, she was born into a Mormon family and her dad was really high up in the Mormon church. So pretty much like her whole life for the first few decades was very colored by her cultural conditioning, and her journey out of that was like necessary to save her life. Her physical body was failing her while she was stuck in the dark wood of error, believing what other people taught her to believe. So she just scrapped those beliefs after, a lot of suffering, and eventually like felt better and better and better, and like layer and layer and layer chips off. And after a while, like you're mostly in paradise with very few demons left in the inferno, which I think is where she is now, as far as that last chapter goes. But yeah, I would imagine all of her books are probably really good. I really want to read the one that, what's it called? Adam's delivery or something like that, where it's about her son with Down syndrome and how as soon as she conceived him, she started having like psychic experiences, like just too real to ignore. And then he's born with Down syndrome, and that was like the epitome of the worst hellgate she's ever had to work her way through. And so yeah, that one sounds like a really powerful turning point in her journey. I would love to hear her tell that story start to finish. She made a whole book out of it. It's got to be good. She tells a little bit of that in this book, but kind of glazes over like what exactly happened. But yeah, I really want to read that one.
She does cover that in this book as well, along with like her trips to Africa and the work being done there. And it's just like, it's got all the exercises and just, it's good on so many different levels. Like there's different pieces involved that I just found really special. It's probably one of my very favorite books that I've read. I've read a lot of books.
Nice. That's awesome. Yes. Well, and the last thing I wanted to share is that I had thought I was going to do another book club, but I am not. I'm going to pivot slightly to a mini program on the gene keys. So next month on February 4th, still the first Saturday of the month, like what the book clubs have been, that'll be part 1 of the gene keys chart exploration. We're going to cover the activation sequence as part 1, and then part 2 will be the Venus sequence, and part 3 will be the Pearl sequence. So I'm going to put a link to my website with more information on that program. If anybody's interested, check it out. My email is on there as well. If you have questions, don't hesitate to ask. And that'll take us through the next 3 months. And after that, anybody's guess is probably as good as mine. So yeah, we'll take ourselves there, because that sounded like fun. When we did the gene keys in the group coaching program, we only gave it 1 2-hour module. And when I dove in there, I mean, it wasn't my first time in the gene keys, obviously, but like I had a really hard time coming back out. I like wanted to stay in there and like keep exploring and keep on, but I had to come back out and move on to the next topic. And so this one, I'm like, ooh, we get to spend 3 months diving into the gene keys and kind of taking it piece by piece, sequence by sequence. I can only imagine what's going to unfold in the next 3 months. So yeah, the link to the information for that is in the description box. But otherwise, I think we are good with this last and final installment of the Way of Integrity Book Club. Big thanks to Myra and Uta for being a part of most of these sessions. Thank you so much. And yeah, I think that's good. Any last thoughts? Oscar, anything to add?
He's good.
Okay, cool. Glad to hear it.
Thank you.
Give us a shake. Yeah, thank you guys. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I will see you next time.
See you guys.
Bye.
See you.